Welcome to the course C# and .NET Programming. In this video, we are going to see the implementation of array of objects and the properties in C# and also the usage of the keywords const and the read-only. To start with the array of object, first I'm going to create a class called as student. The implementation environment I am using is the Visual Studio 2019. So inside the student class, I am going to create the members, one string member, one integer member and one double member. So public string name and then public int register number and then public double CGPA. Along with that, I am going to create a constructor for the student class. So constructor is a public, it does not have a return type and the name of the constructor is same as the class name. I am going to create the augmented constructor. So string n and then int r and the double c. So using the constructor, I am going to initialize the values of the data members of the class. So after that, I am trying to display its values. So I am going to use with the public void display. So here I am going to display all the values. So console dot write line. First the name is displayed and followed by console dot write line the register number and then followed by console dot write line CGPA. So now the methods are ready. We are going to create an object for it. So now we need to store multiple objects inside an array. So we need to create an array to store these objects. So to declare an array, I need to know how many students I need to store in that object. So I'm going to get from the user console.writeLine the number of students. And that I'm going to store it in a variable integer. So console.readLine always read the input as a string. So it need to be explicitly converted as integer. So console.readLine. And after getting, I am going to use a for loop. So I am going to enter the details. So I am going to just give the information console.writeLine. Enter the details. And I am going to use a for loop. Int I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. So this will allow me to get that much number of student detail. And to start with that, first I need to declare an array. So now the array is a class of a student. So you have to use with array is equal to new data type and then how many number of objects you want to create. So this is the syntax for creating the array of objects. So first we need to specify the size of the array. Okay, so just specify only the size of the array, but still the memory for the object is not created because we didn't call the constructor yet. So it creates the size of the array for storing the student object. And now we want to get the values and we want to create an object and store it in the array. So first I need to get the name. So console.writeLine, enter the name. So I am going to get the name string s is equal to or string n is equal to. I am going to get the name. So console.readLine. After getting the name, next the register number. So already I have used the same variable. So name. And then I am going to get console.writeLine, enter the register number. So register number is integer. So I need to get with an integer by converting it. Int parse console dot read line. And next you need to get the CGPA. So console dot write line, enter the CGPA. And that I need to get it in double. So double C is equal to double dot parse. Double dot parse console dot read line. So now all the inputs are ready. So I need to create the object for the student class so that I will invoke the constructor and pass these members to the constructor. So we created an array. So the array object, the first index, that I am going to create an object of the student class which contain the information as name, register number and CGPA. So the first step, it will just create a size of the array to store the student object. And here only we are creating the object by invoking the constructor of the class. So once it is ready, the next thing is, suppose I want to display, I will just call with display. So every student detail, it will get it and try to display. So just run the code. It is asking me how many number of students, 2 students, enter the name John, register number CGPA, and the next student, enter the name Kim and the register number is 201 and the CGPA is 8.9. So immediately after getting, you are getting the outputs of the corresponding input. Suppose you want to display all the names after getting, then you keep this as dot display outside of the for loop by creating another one for loop. Int I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus. So you write the display separately. So first part it will get the input, next part it will try to display the outputs. And we have seen now array of objects. And next is the properties. So properties are mainly used to access the private data members outside of the class. As you know already, if I declare any variable inside my class, if I am not giving the access specifier, defaultly it is a private variable. So when I go and access in my main program, I am just creating another object. S1 is equal to new student Kim and then the register number and the CGPA. Okay. So now I am trying to access console dot write line s1 dot name plus I'm trying to access s1 dot year. Since I have created the year, but I'm not able to access the year. As you know already, year is a private data member, so it cannot be accessed outside due to its protection level. But I want to access that private data member outside without changing it to public. So to work with, we have a special thing in C# which is called as properties. So what we have to do, we just right click, go to refactoring. We have the thing called as property. So whenever there is a private data member, for that the equivalent public property will be created. So instead of accessing the private data member name, using this public variable, I can access it. So the get method will get the value, the set method will set the value. So we can just see here, I can just use s1 dot year. Okay, so s1 dot year, I can have it. So before that, I have made this is small y. The small y only my variable, which is not accessible. So now this private member is accessed through the property is called as capital year. So what I have to do, I am going to assign s1 dot capital year is equal to 1995. So actually this is a property which is calling the set accessor, and through this property it is trying to access the private member here and assign its value. And now you want to access it, so you can use with again s1 dot here. Now it will call the get method. The get method will return whatever value assigned to it. Okay, so you can see here the set and get. So set means whatever value you are passing, that value will be assigned with the private variable. Get means the private variable value, whatever you assigned already, that will be get and accessed through this public property. Okay, so this is the usage of the property. You want to access the private members outside of the class, then you can create a public property for the private member using getter and the setter method. And the next thing we are going to see is the constant. So how to create constant in C#? So to create a constant, I can use the keyword const. So as you know already, constant variables will not be changed once it is assigned. So if I try to change it, immediately it will get me an error due to the constant property. The value will not able to change its value. Okay, and the next one is called as read only. So read only mainly used to make the variable as a readable one. Okay, this read only keyword will be used within the class. So I am going to use with read only, and then I am going to use with int t. So I am making it is public. Okay. So even though it is public, if I try to access outside of the class s1.t, okay, and I am trying to assign a value, I cannot access its value. The reason you can see the read only field cannot assign outside of the class, except it can be initialized only through the constructor. So I can initialize the read only variable only within the constructor. So t is equal to 10. Outside I can access it. So I can access console.readline s1.t. I cannot assign the value. Sorry, it is console.writeLine. I cannot assign the value for the read only because it can be assigned only within the constructor, but I can access it outside. So if I run it, the whole thing, I will get the number of students, and I am entering the name, register number, and then CGPA, and the values are displayed. Then I have used the property to access the private data member through the public property. And then I am using the read only keyword to initialize the data member within only the constructor. Okay, so I hope you got an idea that how to create an array of object and access it, and what is the use of properties in C#, and the usage of the keyword const and read only. Thank you.